Yes, hello everyone. Welcome back to another weekend review show here on Cúilín Media. This time it is myself, Séamus Brady, joined by Matthew Hurley. Aaron and Liam cannot be with us this weekend, unfortunately. So Matthew, back to the OG duo. Yourself and myself, how many episodes did we do in a row together? But now, first show with just the two of us on Cúilín Media. Looking forward to it, man. Good to have you with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Why am I going to keep doing that?
I knew it. I knew I'd get it.
That's it. Because like it's just us two. It's almost like old times, almost like on Clear. So I was bound to say it. But look, it was an absolutely brilliant weekend of football. A lot of shocks that happened. A lot of shocks in the hurling here and there as well. A few results that are probably eye-catching. St. Eunan's out of the Donegal Championship. Portlaoise got absolutely battered in the Laois Championship. Back home as well in Cork Castlehaven, lost by 2 points to near neighbour Newstown as well. And a few others. I think Dromore went out of the Tyrone Championship today. So quite a lot of shocks up and down the country, and looking forward to getting into it. And as well, a few club championships really taking shape around the country. Another result actually in your own championship, Cúilín beating Kilmacud Crokes.
Yeah.
Maybe kind of a shock, but considering Cúilin's hurling history, not really, if that makes sense. But yeah, quite a seismic results nonetheless.
Absolutely. So, I was commentating on that Cúilín versus Kilmacud Crokes game, and basically the situation was if Cúilín won, they were through. But if Cúilín lost, then crazily, even because we had been beaten so heavily by Vincent's the day before. But when I say we, Whitehall Column Kill, I mean my club, we had beaten Cúilín in round 1. So our head-to-head against Cúilín was in our favour. So if Kilmacud Crokes had beaten Cúilín, we would have finished on the same points as each other, and our head-to-head would have kicked in and we would have got through. So I was on commentary, such a dramatic finish. Cúilín stopped Eddie Gibbons' free on the line, and then they stopped the rebound on the line as well. And they get through to the next round based off that. And I was so wrapped up in the moment that because of, the drama and everything like that. But then, you finish up the game and you realise, if that had gone in, my club would have gone through. So it's a bit of a bittersweet moment, but I can't tell you, the drama was sensational. Cúilín absolutely deserved it, 100%. They were superb in that game. They had players like David Tracy, players like Conor Callaghan. They looked absolutely sensational. And Donal O'Shea from Galway was absolutely magnificent. He was unbelievable. So Cúilín, now that they're in the final stages of the Dublin Championship, you'd imagine their tails will be up now because they know how to finish the job off from here. They've done it before. There's a lot of players in that team like Cian O'Callaghan, Conor Callaghan, that have been around the block, won the club championships. They know how to do it. They know how to get over the line. Players like Sean Moran looked really, really good in that game as well. So definitely wouldn't write off Cúilín in Dublin. But for anybody here tuning into Cúilín Media for the first time, your support for these episodes is massive, because if you look at our page on Instagram, with all thanks to Matthew doing that work, getting the results together, you will see just how many results there are across the country, just how many championships there are to cover. So we're going to do our best to cover as much as we can in roughly an hour, 15 minutes. But we probably will miss something, to be honest. We probably will. There's so many championships, there's so many competitions. But if you are watching and you want us to talk about the Cavan Football Championship, the Tyrone Football Championship, the Laois Championship, the Dublin Hurling Championship, just drop a comment in, say you're at the game, say you saw it, these are the highlights, did you see this goal? Get involved in the discussion. It really, really, really helps us out. And Peter is doing the exact thing that I requested there, discussing it. So he says, watch the Kilkenny League final. O'Loughlin's did enough in the end. Mackesy was full forward. Might he be trialled there for the county? That's an interesting one, Matthew. Definitely could be interesting. On top of that, Peter also says Maynooth knocked out of the Kildare Championship. They were cruising well. Neil Flynn came on and scored a few, but Moorfield snatched it in the end. 1913 is the last time Maynooth won the championship, which is absolutely crazy when you think that's a big town in Kildare. A solid win for Crokes. They have bigger fish to fry now. And Portlaoise hammered. Woolley won't be happy. Certainly won't. And then remember I mentioned Donal O'Shea. He is indeed Eamon O'Shea's son. So there's a lot of hurling heritage in that name. But let's dive in, and we're going to go chronologically through the weekend. So we're going to start off with Thursday and Friday's results, then Saturday's results, and then Sunday's results. And obviously Friday's results will be the shortest out the bunch. So starting off with Friday's club championship results, Matthew, the first one that I'm going to put to you here, the first one that massively jumps out is the Tyrone Senior Football Championship, because obviously we have Errigal Kieran in there who played on the Thursday, just a little caveat there, but they start off their campaign with a 421-17 win over Ardbow. Really, really impressive stuff. Loch McCrory beat Killyclogher 119-211. Pomeroy Plunkett's 118. Gorton St. Patrick's 14 points. So interesting results there from Tyrone.
Yeah, and Eric Kieran, a lot of people were kind of ridiculing you and Liam's picks for the All-Ireland, saying Eric Kieran, they won't do it and things like that. And I thought they were a very good team, but I'm still skeptical on whether they'll win Tyrone just because of the records. Nobody's done 2 in a row in Tyrone since 2005. But that result it's kind of made me worry a small bit. That result was absolutely sensational. I know Ardbow probably wouldn't be near the top in Tyrone, but to start the championship the way they did, these are the sort of games maybe Errigal would have struggled in the past few seasons, but they absolutely battered Ardbow to pieces here. Like 4 goals and 21 points on a Thursday evening as well, when conditions might not be the best in either case either. Apparently Darragh Canavan had an excellent game, Rory Canavan as well. Apparently Peter Harton playing this game from what I was hearing, so to do it without him was absolutely sensational. But yeah, it's a really, really good results from Errigal there. Loch McCrory, Aaron mentioned them the other night, have the likes of Rory McCullough in their team and Owen McElholm, and would be considered one of the dark horses if you like in the Tyrone Championship. They were well ahead at half-time from what I was hearing, but then Killyclogher kind of pulled it back in a small bit, but they held on and got the win, which is a sign of a good team. When they weren't performing well in the second half, they still got together and got over the line there. And Pomeroy with a good win over Gorton St. Patrick's there. So look, an interesting weekend in Tyrone, and Errigal, I think they're still going to be the top dogs by the looks of those scorelines, but I think Loch McCrory might have something to say about that, possibly Trillick, which we'll get onto in a little bit as well. So a very interesting championship down the line.
Absolutely. So, I mean, like, you look at the results there, like Errigal Kieran losing the last year. So you look at last year's final, Errigal Kieran losing the way that they did, with Darragh Canavan going off as early as he did. And they were still so close to Cúilín after having such a bad start to the game. They conceded all those early goals, yet they fought back and they were so close going down the home stretch. Peter Hart put on an exhibition in that second half. But they say you have to lose a final to win a final. And you look at, that statement of intent, putting 421 up in their first game in the Tyrone Championship. I know the Tyrone Championship is notoriously difficult to go back-to-back in, but I think if there's one team that can do it, it's Errigal Kieran and this current crop of players that they have with the Canavans, with Peter Hart, with Joe O'Goose. And the thing is that the further they go, the more confident I get in them. If they can get out of Tyrone, I'll be confident that they can get through Ulster. If they can get through Ulster, I'll be very, very confident that they can go all the way, because the Ulster Championship is such a minefield. And then they're only 2 games away from the All-Ireland. They are a serious team, but anybody can be caught in the club championship. So they could be great this week, gone the next week. So we'll see what happens. But no, they really, really sent out a statement there. Looking at the results on Friday, is there anything else that you want to jump to next? I'll let you throw the next ball at me.
So I suppose the Cavan Senior Football Championship quarterfinals, Crosserlough beating Arva 217-19 points. Crosserlough probably would have been the main kind of team in Cavan over the last few years. Arva have been on a sensational journey. They were All-Ireland junior champions only 2 years ago.
Yeah, Kieran Brady's team, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. They were in the intermediate championship last year and won that in Cavan straight away. They got knocked out in Ulster by, I think, Drumgat from Down last season. But they've been on Sunrise, and to get to the quarterfinal of the senior championship in Cavan, look, a lot of people might have had hopes because momentum can take you so far. But to come as close as they did to a side like Crosserlough, who have a lot of history in the Cavan championship, like, they have to be proud of themselves and the journey they have gone through, in fairness to Arva there. In the relegation semi-finals in Meath, you had Meath Hill facing Simonstown Gales, and that went to penalties. Simonstown Gales winning 5-4 in penalties after 1-14 apiece. Draw there, St. Columkill beating Gael Columkill as well on the Wednesday night this week. So it'll be Gael Columkill and Meath Hill in the relegation playoff. Meath Hill won the intermediate championship in Meath last year. So I should know, like, Tommy Rooney was tweeting about them non-stop last season. I don't know, is that his club in Meath? It probably is, to be honest.
But, probably is.
But Meath Hill, they're in a relegation playoff anyway. They won't want to go back down to the intermediate after trying so hard to get up to the senior grade. Gael Columkill won't want to let go either, so it will be an interesting relegation playoff there. in the Roscommon Senior Football Championship preliminary quarter-final. Quite an interesting game that went to extra time on Wednesday evening. Porter Pierce's beat Oran in the end, 226 to 315. But they went to extra time. Is that a sign that Porter Pierce are kind of losing their way in Roscommon a small bit? Has that result against Cúilín or Strandhill affected them a bit as well? It remains to be seen. Obviously, I think Gavin will know much more about Roscommon football than us two. So if you're here, Gavin, explain how Porter Pierce has kind of struggled in this game against this Oran side. Loughlin Island beating Braid and the Down Senior Football Championship in the Dublin Championship. Sorry, Séamus, I have to bring to St. Vincent's absolutely hammering Whitehall, Cúilín, and Nate Barrow getting a good win over St. Jude's. Before I explain more about Friday's results there, bad night for you guys.
Yeah, look, it was a rough one. You looked at the team sheet. St. Vincent's are really flying under the radar, though, for how good they actually are. Like, you're looking at the starting lineup that Vincent's had. You know, they have Rian McBride in there. They've Conor Burke in there. Mark Sweeney alongside him in midfield is really, really good. John Heatherton at full forward. Tomas Connolly, who is Dermot Connolly's brother. He is a fantastic hurler, plenty of experience with the Dublin inter-county setup as well. Dara Perry as well as in goal, has been around the Dublin team quite a lot as well. They've got a really, really good team. Yeah, players like Derek McBride as well have been on the fringes of the Dublin panel over the last few years. They've got a really, really solid team. And when I saw it on paper there, I was thinking, you know what, if they can get into the final or the semi-final against, you know, a Cúilín or Kilmacud Crokes, I would back Vincent's to be able to beat them. I really, really would. I think you're looking at Nafina. They, you know, reached the pinnacle of the game last year. Will they have the hunger to go the distance the way that the Vincent's might, or that a Cúilín might, to get back up there? And when the battle is on, Vincent's might be able to find that extra inch this year. So I looked at them over the last couple of years. They become really, really, really dogged and determined, and they got really, really close last year. I mean, Ballybowden, they pushed them all the way in the semi-final last year. They pushed Nafina all the way last year as well. Sorry, the Bowden game was 2 years ago, but the Nafina game last year, they pushed them all the way. So they have been inches away over the last couple of years, and the way that they performed against us, I mean, every team should be sitting up and taking notice, because we were missing some big players. There's no question about it. We were missing some inter-county lads, but we still beat Cúilín in this group stage. So we're not a bad team, and Vincent's really were better in this game. So there's no question about it. Vincent's have to be taken seriously for the Dublin Championship, and if you can get out of Dublin, I mean, you have to be considered one of the front runners for Leinster as well. So definitely could be a big year for Vincent's, no question about it. And Barogue as well. Then on the other side, Barogues have been a coming force in the Dublin Hurling Championship. They've got players in there like Joe Flanagan, like Paddy Doyle, like a few players now that are starting for the Dublin team, are getting minutes for the Dublin team. So they're definitely coming strong. And it's good to see another club getting added into the mix, because over the last decade, it's been Bowden, Crokes and Cúilín, Bowden, Crokes and Cúilín, and then Nafina and Vincent's have kind of freshened it up a bit. And then obviously now we have more people joining the party. So great to see that Barogues are into the quarterfinals. Interesting though, we did have an interesting structure this year. 6 teams in the group, 4 go through to the quarterfinals. So once you won 2 games, you're almost home and hose, but unfortunately not, because we won 2, and now we have to face the relegation semi-finals on the other side. So look, very, very interesting championship, very even championship. But on the other side, as we'll get to, Nafina 5 from 5. They're looking pretty hard to stop right now, to be honest. The next one I'm going to throw to, man, I'm going to move on to LGFA, just switch the code real quick. And I'm going to discuss the Galway Senior LGFA Championships. We got Moy Cullen beating Nave Muir 2-5 to 1-6. Anna Down, Dunmore McHale's, as you mentioned, that was postponed. Then Clare Galway hammering Salthill Knockmacara 3-13 to 4 points. But no prizes for guessing which result we were keeping a close eye on. Kilkerran Clonberne against Currafin. Kilkerran Clonberne 4 goals and 18 points. Currafin 5 points. We are witnessing a spell of dominance in the club game like we very rarely see with Kilkerran Clonberne. They have been untouchable over the last few seasons. They've gone through every type of challenge that you can go through. They've passed every test that you can give them. They've beaten Kilmacud Crokes in the final. They've beaten Ballymacarbery in the final. Generational teams there. And already putting a result like that, 4-18 to 5 points against Currafin, they already look like they're going to be hard to stop this year.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be any prizes to guess who'll win Galway this year. Looking at those scorelines, like Kilkerran Clonberne, absolutely. obliterating every team in Galway. It's not really a surprise, is it? When you look at it, really, like it's
how are they so good? How are they so good?
Like it's just consistency levels, isn't it? And the players that they do have at their disposal. Because like normally with club sides, you could name maybe 1, 2, 3 at a push 4 inter-county standard players. For Clonburn, I can count Olivia Divley, Siobhan Divley, Louise Ward, Nicola Ward, Ava Noon, Hannah Noon, Lindsay Noon, Ailish Morrissey, Sarah Gormley. I think that's 9 off the top of my head. Like that's Chloe Mescal, that's 10. Yeah.
Crazy.
Like it's unreal. It really is. Dervla Garwich? I don't think she is, but 9 still, or 10. That's absolutely sensational. And like most of them are actually sisters. Like there's the Noon sisters, there's the Ward sisters there as well, which makes it even more incredible in its own right, because they're kind of is a great chemistry between them as well. That's another thing. Because like they seem like all good friends. They seem like they're all in a good family as well. And as well as that, they're absolutely obliterating teams and they're absolutely class footballers. Like I would say Olivia Divley, for example, I think she's one of the most underrated players in the country, because a lot of people talk about maybe Amy Mackin when Louise Verhertig was playing her, Hannah Terrell, Carter Rowe as one of the best players in the country. Ashley Maloney as well. Nobody really talks about Olivia Divley. And I mean, that's a bit, maybe it's just me, but I just feel like she deserves a lot more respect. Like the way she got Galway back into that semi-final in extra time against Dublin as well. And the way she drives on this Kilcurran-Clonburn team, she's just an incredible footballer. She's an incredible leader. And she's one of the most experienced players on the team. And I think she's still into her 20s. She's still in her 20s. She still has a bit to go into her 30s, which probably makes it even more credible that at a young age, she still is such an experienced campaigner, which is incredible in its own right. So I do think she's one of the best players in the country, in all fairness, and they are going to wrap up in the Galway Championship. There's no doubt about that there. In LGFA as well, in the Meath Championship in the quarterfinal, Naval Manny's got to the semi-final. They beat D Rangers 3-14 to 9 points. So great to see a historic club into the semi-finals there. And in the Loud Senior LGFA Championship, St. Feckin's, Geraldine's, Roach Emmets and St. Patrick's all progressed to the semi-finals in that county championship as well. So good results there in the LGFA Championship. But before we leave Friday's results, in the Wexford Senior Hurley Championship preliminary quarterfinal, Owler the Bala beat Aldgate Glenbrine. It was 3-20 apiece after extra time. Aldgate scored a last-ditch goal. I don't know, did you see the clip on Clubber, Séamus? It was one of the most bizarre kind of a goals. It was a ball dropping short, nothing really in danger. And then Aldgate, somebody from Aldgate just flicks the ball into the net. And it's like, what's going on here? But in the end, Owler won us 3-0 on penalties. And this is a club that has gone down to intermediate, so it's great to see them back up at the pedestal of Wexford hurling.
Absolutely. Like, there's no question about it. I mean, that's a real sucker punch, but the bounce back from that is absolutely unbelievable. And just touching on Kilkerran one more time, like, it's easy to point out that they're so good when they're blowing teams away the way they did against Currafin, but the real test is when you're put in the fire. And time again, Kilkerran and Clonburn have been forced to go to the well. When you're mentioning there about the closeness, the fact that, you know, there's so many sisters on that team, there's so many people who are so close to each other on that team. You look at how they've won the championships. Kilmacud Crokes went down to the wire last year in the final, and you wonder, is that closeness, the fact that, you know, there are siblings on that team, is that how they've got over the line because of that little inch that they have, because they know each other so well, because they're willing to go to the well for each other time in, time out? And not only can they blow teams away the way that they did this weekend, but they can really dog it out as well, better than anybody else in the country. I don't see anybody stopping them this year. I've made that clear from the get-go. I think you were on the same wavelength as me, weren't you? That we think Kilkerran are going to win. The other two lads went with Kilmacud Crokes, interestingly, but we will see. Only time will tell. And let's move on then to, so just a quick question here from Smart Parents 812. Who do you think will win the Dublin Senior Hurling Championship? If I was pushed right now, who I think is going to win it, I still think Nafina will retain. What are you thinking? Having been on the opposite end of a Navina defeat last year in the final, look, I've seen how good they are. They are a very good side, and if they keep the players together, no matter if
and Neil O'Callaghan has left the post, they are still a superb group of players. They're one of the best teams in the country. Like the way they played hurling last year was absolutely sensational. I think they're probably the favourites, but you cannot write out Cúilín or Kilmacud Crokes for that matter. They could still go on and win this Dublin Senior Hurling Championship. It is going to be very interesting to see how it all progresses, but you can't go past Nafina, can you? Like, they are an exceptional side.
No, they certainly are. But like the thing is that is really interesting. I don't mean to be disrespectful to any of the clubs that are still left in the Dublin Championship, but one thing that is great when you're talking about competition, you look at Ballygunner hoovering up the Waterford Championship year in, year out, and nobody really thinks that anybody can beat Ballygunner. But in the Dublin Championship, genuinely, having watched all the games, I would say that there are 5 clubs that I seriously think can win the championship out of the 8 that are in the quarterfinals. I genuinely believe that Nafina can win it, that Kilmacud Crokes can win it, that Lucan Sarsfields can win it, that Ballybowden can win it, and that Cúilín can win it. I think that all 5 of them can win the Dublin Championship. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to the other 3 teams that are still in the championship, but the 5 of them have all shown me in individual performances so far this year that they deserve to be taken dead serious for the club championship. Cúilín had some flat results, losing to Bridget's, losing to Whitehall at the start of the championship. They wouldn't have been happy with their performances in that, but the way that they rallied and beat Kilmacud Crokes when it was all on the line, you have to take them serious. And the fact that they're in the last stages when they've won the Dublin Championship very recently, then you have to take them serious as contenders. And the fact that David Tracy and players like that have returned, Cian O'Callaghan has returned. I'd like to see Cian O'Callaghan back in the Dublin team. He looks superb. Cúilín had to take him off because he got injured. Hopefully it's not too serious, but when he got injured, Cúilín were dominating. Cian O'Callaghan gets injured and goes off. Kilmacud turned the tide. Coincidence? Probably not. So we're going to move on then to Saturday's games. Starting off, Matthew, the one that I'm going to jump out here, the Limerick Senior Hurling Championship. You have it up at the top of the billing. We have Na Piarsaigh beating Patrick Swell and beating them handy 226 to 214. Doon then beat Ahan 23 points to 118. Ballybrown 420, Kilmallock 119. Adair 217, Newcastle West 118. Monaleen 21 points, Kildemo Pallaskenry 21 points, so a draw there. And then Mungret St. Paul's 121, Drummond Atlaka 115. The one that stands out for me there's 2, I would say, actually. Na Piarsaigh beating Patrick Swell by 12 points, and then Ballybrown beating Kilmallock 420 to 119. I mean, that's 2 teams there in Kilmallock and Patrick Swell. 2 big names. Patrick Swell are definitely known for the super 3 that they have in Gillan, in Burns, and in Keane Lynch. But there's no question about it. Na Piarsaigh look the business, and if they can get out of the Limerick Championship, they'll take some beating in Munster. They
will do, yeah. And just on Patrick Swell, look, it's just puzzling how they're struggling so badly this year. Like in the last few years, okay, they've got to the semi-final, they've got to the final one year, and they come so close yet so far. But the excuse given was that Gillan, Lynch, and Burns would have been main players in the Limerick team. They would have gone right to the well at the very end in July to win the All-Ireland Championship for Limerick, and that would have been a valid excuse. This year, the Limerick hurlers went out in June, so those players should have been fresh, ready to go for this championship. How are they getting pummelings like this? I'm genuinely puzzled on how this is happening. And I don't think Limerick people know the answer to this either. Like it's just puzzling how they struggled so badly against sides like the Piarsaigh, even the likes of Ballybrown and Doon as well, how they collapse in games. That's what I've noticed at the scorelines this year, provided by Limerick GA, obviously on Patrick's well. Like it's just really, really poor from them. Obviously, the Piarsaigh have Peter Casey back, which is a huge plus to them. Mike Casey, massive player. Shane Dowling in goal, obviously a massive leader in the team, and a massive voice there to have as well. But for Patrick Swell, it's just poor over the last few years. You'd expect them to win a bucket load of Limerick championships, considering not just they have 3 inter-county players, but 3 of Limerick's best players over the last few seasons, especially Keane Lynch. One of the best players that we've ever seen over the last few seasons. Obviously, big result for Ballybrown against Kilmallock, even though the Limerick PRO actually got this initially wrong on X. They got the wrong scoreline. They said Ballybrown won this 223 to 120, I think it was. But look, the Limerick PRO, that's a discussion for another day. It's just probably the worst social media in the country, no doubt about that there. But look, it's great result for Ballybrown there, 420 to 119. Obviously, Kilmarnock would have been the main stays in the Limerick Championship over the last few years, but Ballybrown have Aidan O'Connor up in the full forward line, and they do have a young team trying to develop, so that's a good result for them. Doon beating a hand 23 points to 118. We're watching them closely now because Liam predicted Doon will win the Munster Championship, so we're going to look at them closely. I wouldn't say that's a ridiculous prediction from Liam, to be honest, in all honesty.
They're a good team.
They're a good team. Adam English there, Pat Ryan there. They're Barry Murphy, obviously. They do have some excellent players, and they were really, really good last season, and they could have really troubled Ballygunner last year, if they had more than 1 week in rest there. And look at the other results there. Adair beating Newcastle West. That was a big result for Adair. Monaghan and Kildoimo, Pallaskenry drawing. That's a big result for Kildoimo, considering Kyle Hayes is actually out of this game, obviously, because of the injury over the last few weeks. And Munger St. Paul's getting a win over Drummond and Naka as well. So good results there from those clubs from a Limerick point of view. But I'll throw this back to you, Séamus, about Patrick's. Well, go back to them. What do you think, honestly, is going on there? Like, I would describe it as puzzling with the players that they do have, that they're really, really struggling in the Limerick Championship as of now.
Well, I think simply put, I just think that the supporting cast clearly isn't strong enough. I mean, you're looking at who tends to win club championships. The best team will win the club championship. I mean, for years we were talking about Cúilín is actually a really good example in the football, because for years in the Dublin Championship, Cúilín had Conor Callaghan and they had Michael Fitzsimons. And we were all looking at thinking, Michael Fitzsimons, Conor Callaghan, how are Cúilín not winning more Dublin Championships, everything like that? How are they not in the final, everything? And the reality is that the supporting cast around those players at the time was not strong enough to help Cúilín into those positions. Whereas this year and last year when they won the All-Ireland, they've added in players like Cal Dorn, like Peter Duffy, like Charlie McMurrow, the supporting cast around your superstars that are fantastic players. And they then elevate them to the next level where they can seriously win All-Irelands, because you cannot win Limerick Championships. You cannot win Munster Championships with just 3 players and then the rest of the team not being up to that standard. And the reality is that when it comes to star power, the 3 that they have there is better than any 3 that any other club has in Ireland. Burns, Gillan, Lynch. There's nobody beating that. They've got 3 hurlers of the year, correct?
Yeah.
3 hurlers of the year they have there. So nobody's beating that. And 3 recent hurler of the year. So nobody's beating that. But the reality is clearly either they're not playing the right style to suit those players, or the supporting cast around them just aren't strong enough to take them on. And you look at Napirsig, while Napirsig don't have the same superstars that Patrick's well have, they're very, very good players like Peter Casey, like Will O'Donoghue. And then on top of that, around those players, they have plenty of people who have, a bit of inter-county experience there. And then starters like Mike Casey, who aren't quite superstars, but they're nailed on starters for Limerick. Super bags of experience. And then they take the team to the next level. That would be my take on it.
Yeah, that's probably a good suggestion in all honesty. Like, they do have okay players in and around there. I think Patrick Kirby up at the full forward line is a decent player. Obviously, Aaron Gallan's brother Jason, the goalkeeper, is one of the goalkeepers there for Limerick. So they do have some decent enough players, but it's just, I don't know, there just isn't enough around, as you mentioned there. Whereas the Piarshig, it's almost like close to maybe challenging an inter-county team as possible. Like, you've Mike Casey in the full back line, you've Peter Casey in the full forward line, you've Will O'Donoghue in midfield, you've Shane Downing in goal. That's almost like the perfect balance, if you know what I mean. And as well as that with Patrick's, well, a bit I don't know, it's very, very weird with Aaron Gallan. You know the way with inter-county players, you play them not necessarily in their positions for inter-county teams, but you play them, say, a corner forward, you play him at centre forward. What I always see with Aaron Gallan, he always plays corner forward for Patrick's well. And that's suggesting to me, Aaron Gallan's a fantastic player, but you're just not utilising him properly.
Yeah.
It's just, again, it's really, really strange. Cian Lynch still plays around the half forward line. Cian Lynch can easily play in midfield. Why aren't you playing him around there? Dermot Burns, I know he's one of the best wing backs in the country. Wouldn't it be, more beneficial to play him at centre back? Because imagine a spine of Dermot Burns at 6, Cian Lynch at 8 or 9, and Aaron Gillane at 11.
It is serious. Like even Aaron Gillane full forward with Lynch and Burns around the middle, sending ball into him. Like that would be. But then again, it's like I always look at it and I say, like, Will O'Donoghue always was the player, in my opinion, that I looked at in that Limerick team, and I said he's the glue that holds that team together around the middle. I was like, I always looked at it and I was like, Will O'Donoghue for me is like the Roy Keane of that Limerick hurling team. That he won't be as flash and he's not as skillful as maybe Paul Scholes was, but Roy Keane, you take Roy Keane out of that team, half of the stuff that they won without Roy Keane in there. And I really believe that Will O'Donoghue was like the bulldozer, but also the person that was such a good ball winner. And then he would set the stage for the likes of Cian Lynch to play through the lines and everything like that and do the fancy stuff, because Will O'Donoghue, and then you have to shout out Darragh O'Donovan as well, who would, win that dirty ball constantly for Limerick in the middle. There's no question about it. They have been disappointing for what they have, for the talent that they have. And I think like it's the type of thing where if they don't win a Limerick championship, they'll be 15 years time looking back on this team that they have now thinking, how in the fuck did we not win something with the crop that we had, with the players that we had? And the thing is that looking at it this season, as Liam correctly highlighted, Doon are only getting stronger. Like some of Doon's best players, like Adam English is only getting started. Like, let's be real, like he might well win an All-Star this year, but that guy is only going to get better and better and better. And then on top of that, they have the likes of Pat Ryan in there. Like Doon are going to take some serious stopping, and Darragh O'Donovan in there too. And last season, after winning the Limerick Championship, I personally do agree with Liam that if they had a little bit more time than what they were given, I mean, what did they have, a week between the Limerick final and their clash with Ballygunner? If they were given a bit more time than that, and they could have enjoyed themselves on the beer and then recovered and got back into a training camp rather than, training as you're hungover for Ballygunner on the weekend, realistically, they would have, in my opinion, come a hell of a lot closer, and they still nearly beat them. So really, really interesting. Also, Matthew, Peter drops in here with this little piece of information. The Doon manager is Derek McGrath. I mean, if you're talking club managers, that's not a bad one to have at all. On top of that, Shane C says Tyrone Championship has been great this year. Shane, the Tyrone Championship is great every year. In my opinion, it's just the most competitive championship, I think, pound for pound in Ireland. Like, you look at it, new winner every year since 2005. Nobody goes back to back in that championship. So we decided to pick two of us decided to pick that they would go back to back, but we'll see what happens. The next one I'm going to move on to, Matthew, and really, to be honest, this should put every single hurling club in Ireland on red alert. Ballyhale Shamrocks 132, Aaron's own 2 goals and 8 points. When I was looking around for all the previews of who would win the All-Ireland Club Hurling Championship, with the exception of Aaron, big shout out to Aaron, very few people were tipping Ballyhale Shamrocks. And you look at the players that they have: Owen Cody, Adrian Mullen, TJ Reid, Joey Holden, Richie Reid. They are still absolutely stacked. And putting a result like that up against Aaron's own, it's a bit of a statement.
It is, to be fair. And Ballyhale are one of those kind of teams that you would have said, remember a few years ago we were saying Ballyhale and Ballygunner are the two mainstays in All-Ireland Hurling Championship in those conversations, and we'd be absolutely shocked if any other club would win it. But ever since those days, ever since Ballyhale lost to Thomastown and they've lost to O'Loughlin Gales over the last few seasons, Ballygunner obviously fell to SARS and things like that, and we kind of discarded those teams, and we kind of forgotten how good they were. Like Ballyhale Shamrocks are still an outstanding side. Like, you have TJ Reid, as you mentioned there, like Richie Reid, Joey Holden. Like, they're, again, that's almost like a complete inter-county team that you have there. And it's just, maybe it's just the fact that Kilkenny Championship is very, very hard to win. Like, you have Thomastown, a team coming up through the ranks there. You have O'Loughlin Gales there as well. You have other good clubs in and around. Like, James Stephens got relegated last year. And James Stephens would have been probably one of the most historic clubs in the Kilkenny Championship over the last few seasons.
Cody was managing them.
Exactly. So look, it just proves that it is a tough championship to win, and it is a tough championship to maneuver in many ways. So to beat a side that is in the same championship as you by that margin, it's really sends out alarm bells. It is a really, really good result from a Ballyhale point of view. And I think a lot of people will be talking about them in terms of winning the Kilkenny Championship. And then if they get out of Kilkenny, I think they could easily win the Leinster Championship, because let's not forget with Thomastown last year, they were playing Castletown Gaig, and it might have seemed like a shock. But Thomastown were only an intermediate team the year before. So it might have been unfamiliar territory to them. Whereas with Ballyhale Shamrocks, if they get into the Leinster Championship, that is an unfamiliar territory to them. Like, still, Owen Cody has experience of playing in Leinster Championships. Joey Holden has plenty of it. You have other players in and around have plenty of experience, even the younger guys who won an All-Ireland against Dunlaw a few seasons ago. So they're still a team to be feared. They are a very, very good side. And to put up that scoreline, I think it's warned every team around the country that they're still around. Like, no matter if Thomastown beat them last season, they're still bouncing back, and they're still a very, very good side.
Yeah, there certainly is. And I wonder how much of a difference Henry Shefflin's return as Ballyhale Shamrocks manager it has made, because there's no doubt about it. Henry Shefflin returning as manager will have made a massive impact. He commands that respect in the Ballyhale camp, and there's no question about it. He might have his eye on potentially getting the Kilkenny job, because a lot of speculation about how much longer Derek Lyng is going to be in that position. If Henry Shefflin smashes this out of the park with Ballyhale Shamrocks again and wins more Kilkenny championships, more Leinster championships, and maybe another All-Ireland championship, I mean, he puts himself right in the centre of discussion for who could replace Derek Lyng as Kilkenny manager. So we could be watching something special here developing with Ballyhale. Only time will tell. But moving on to the Dublin Senior Hurling Championship fixtures that took place on Saturday. Just going to run through them because we have already discussed it. So we see here, Nafina 25 points, Lucan Sarsfield's 118. That was a bit of a shadow boxing game, because coming into that game, both teams had won 4 out of 4. And, regardless, they were both going through. They were playing for top spot. But interestingly, I got a sense at the end of that game, there was a lot of markers being laid down. There was a lot of little argy-bargy shoulders, nothing below the line, but very respectful, but letting them know, like, it felt like, when you're watching a game, you're like, they're being like, we'll see you down the line. Like, this type of thing where they might meet each other in the semi-final or the final. But anyway, Nafina made it 5 from 5. Liam Rush returns. He looks like he hasn't taken a step back at all. He's absolutely brilliant still. Cúilín then beat Kilmacud by 26 points to 121. Bridget's beat Oliver Plunkett's Owen Rua 223 to 220. And Ballyboden hammered Crave 229 to 12 points. So Crave, Plunkett's, Whitehall, unfortunately, we're into the relegation semi-finals against each other, and we'll see who goes down. We'll move then to the football. So you mentioned it there. Quite a surprise. St. Eunan's are gone. And in our preview for the All-Ireland Club Series, this is one of the shocks of the weekend. It's not really getting as much airtime as I thought it might have, but St. Eunan's have been a perennial contender and champion in Donegal over the last few seasons, and they've just been knocked out after extra time by Termon, 116 to 18 points. When we did our preview pieces, who we thought would win the All-Ireland, I did see a few comments saying St. Eunan's will win Ulster. And now they're out in the Donegal Championship. So huge result for Tim.
Yeah, it's a massive result. St. Eunan's, a lot of people, as you mentioned, would have commented about them, and maybe rightly so, considering they took Eric Kieran right to the bitter end. Ben McDonald, I think, got a last minute point to win it in the end against St. Eunan's. So a lot of people would have automatically thought, okay, they'll win the Donegal Championship. Nobody ever thought that they'd go out at the preliminary quarter-final. That's a real shocker. And I'm actually surprised it isn't getting enough airtime, because Eunan's are one of the biggest clubs in Donegal. They're one of the most successful clubs in it. Termon, good side, but not winning standard, I would think, for the Donegal Championship. So for St. Eunan's to lose that game, you have to give a lot of credit to Termon. Extra time, a lot of effort goes into that, and to get over the line there to win it by a point, you have to give them a lot of credit. And that was a big upset in terms of the Donegal Championship. And you have sides like, Dunglow still in it. You have Nick Connell. You have even Sean McCool's, who might fancy their chances now of winning the Donegal Championship. now that St. Eunice are gone. And St. Eunice have the likes of the O'Donnells there. And maybe, like I mentioned it with the Limerick players there, maybe there was a bit of fatigue with the likes of Conor O'Donnell and Shane O'Donnell because it was a long season with Donegal. It was well documented by the boss himself and Jim McGuinness. About 10 or 11 games in the championship, add on 7 games in the league. That's about 17 or 18 games. So to go straight into a club championship, that would have been tiring for them. And what are we in, mid-September? So like that would have been still tiring for them. So you have to take that into account as well. So Thurman probably just grabbed their chance in terms of that, and they got over the line in fairness to them. It's a huge result, huge implications around the Donegal Championship there. And as well on Saturday, Naomh Conall beat Kitty Beggs 315 to 210. So good result there for the Glinties. So yeah, good results for Naomh Conall and Thurman there. But St. Eunan's, it's a huge shock there.
Oh, it absolutely is, and it really shakes up the championship now that the defending champions are gone. It really does make the rest of the teams sit up and take notice. Scrolling down through the fixtures, I'm going to read them out until I stop at the next one. So you got Armagh, quarterfinal, St. Peter's, Cullerville. St. Peter's 114, Cullerville 210, Carrickcruppen 110, Granmore 10 points. In the Galway Championship, Oughterard 116, Clare Galway 211. And then in the relegation semi-final, Annadown beat St. Michael's 217 to 215. Stopping at the Derry Senior Football Championship, we're going to stop here. Balahi 220, Faughonville 311, Sean O'Leary's Newbridge 125, the Loop 14. So we've got 2 impressive wins there for 2 recent finalists. And we look at the Derry Championship, Slot Neil and Glen have been the 2 front runners over the last few years, with Sean O'Leary Newbridge obviously announcing themselves last season, they beat Glen, wasn't it, in the final? So they are the defending champions. Sorry, memory slipped. Sean O'Leary Newbridge are the defending champions, but they announced themselves last season. I thought they caught Glen on the hop, to be honest, because I remember Glen beat Slot Neil in that Derry semi-final, and I thought going into the final that Glen did have a bit of an attitude of, okay, we've beaten our most difficult challenge. Let's just turn up and get this done and win the Derry Championship. And Sean O'Leary's Newbridge came willing to put in everything to that game, and they beat them that day, fair and square. They're back on the march. They're back winning again. Very impressive 21-point victory over the Loop. Can they go back to back?
Well, obviously, I didn't predict it. I said Slot Neil would win Ulster. So I'm sticking with Slot Neil to go on and win the Derry Championship. I absolutely agree with you. What happened last year? Look, brilliant win for Sean O'Leary's Newbridge. Absolutely deserved the final. But it had that kind of... Glen kind of had that attitude that you were going into the final, and not to be disrespectful to the opponents, but I think Watty Graham's Glen kind of had that. They beat Slot Neil. They were thinking, okay, we got over our most difficult challenge, and then they lost the final in the end. I'm sure a lot of Newbridge players would have actually targeted us and targeted the rest of the media, saying that if they said we couldn't do it or whatever. I remember a player actually did it last season. I can't remember off the top of my head what his name was. And Sean O'Leary's Newbridge did lose in the first round, as far as I remember, this year's Derry Championship. So to rebound there and to get to the quarterfinals, you have to give them a lot of credit for that. They'd be up there with one of the favourites, of course. You have to put them up there as one of the favourites. But if they were to beat a Glen or a Slot Neil in a semi-final or a final for the second year running, I'd be really, really impressed with that. Because normally what you see with underdogs is they kind of have a dip year, go out in maybe the early rounds, and they go out earlier than expected. But with this Newbridge team, if they get over the quarterfinal now, they're into a semi-final, anything can happen after that. I think if they were to get to a semi or to get to a final, I still think it would be a brilliant achievement. I know they won the championship last season, but it was unexpected circumstances. I still think Slot Neil and Watty Graham's Glen are the 2 best teams in Derry. But considering Newbridge won the championship last season, you can't discount them going on and winning it. We don't want to discount them again after what happened last season. But look at the other results, as you mentioned there. Oughterard have the likes of Matthew Tierney in there, and they got into a quarterfinal, so fair play to them for that. And obviously good wins for Carrickcruppen and St. Peter's in the Armagh Championship. And Balahi are a historic club in Derry, so nice to see them into a quarterfinal there too.
Absolutely. Running through some other results, I think that caught my eye. Trillick beating Dungannon 23 points to Dungannon's 116. That's a big result. That's a big team knocked out in the Tyrone Senior Football Championship. Just flicking through the results because we do have a lot to get through on Sunday as well. Guys, if you missed any results as well, all of the results from the weekend are up on the Cúilín Media Instagram page and Gaelic Statsman Instagram page. Obviously, Matthew here created the page and then collabed with the Cúilín page, so it's up and can be found on either of the Instagram pages. And drop a follow while you are there as well. It really, really helps out. Matthew, any other results you like from Saturday before we move on to Sunday?
So I think the big one from Saturday is the Laois Senior Football Championship quarterfinals. Courtwood 4-11, Port Laois 14 points. Like, that is, and I don't know, will Laois people actually say that's an unexpected result? But look at Port Laois's record in it, and look at how recently they've reached finals. Not just for them to go out in the quarterfinals, but to lose the game by 9 points.
Yeah.
What on earth happened there? I genuinely don't know. Like, it was one of those results that you had to double check. Was that actually correct? Like, that was an absolutely incredible result. Fair play to Courtwood. Brilliant result for them to get to the Laois semi-finals. A brilliant result for them there. Port Arlington, who would be the other favourites in the Laois Championship, actually beat Arles Cúilín on the same day, 224-17. So I suppose they're the favourites to go on and win it. They'll get the Laois Championship for the rest of the campaign there. Obviously in the Meath Senior Football Championship quarterfinals, Summerhill and Screen got through there. According to some people, Ballinabbrackie were ahead of Screen for most of that game, and they actually lost the game by a point in the end, 3-15 to 120. And that was supposed to be Ballinabbracky's first semi-final in, if not ever, in a long, long time, and they blew it in the last few minutes. You have to feel sorry for them. You really do. And that's a difficult defeat to take there. Glenbarton got through in Wexford, beating Crossabeg Ballymore 116-212. Good result there for them. Gowna into the semi-finals in Cavan. Lockmore Castleiney, they only beat Moyle Rangers by a goal, 313-213. So not very convincing from the Munster finalists there. In Wicklow, one of the finalists is Carnew Emmets. They beat Arklow 15 points to 111. A tight game there by a point. So Carnew are into the final. And obviously the other finalist was on Sunday. In the Offaly Senior Football Championship, obviously Liam talked about this on Thursday with Road having a walkover over Durrow. We talked about it more on Thursday, but it doesn't look good for the Offaly Championship, does it? Road got into the quarterfinals, yes, but like, it doesn't do them any favours at all, and it definitely throws the championship into disrepute there. Eden Derry got a good win, and they're into the semi-finals of the Offaly Championship. Shamrocks and Tullamore also getting comprehensive wins. In the Clare Championship, Aero Guinness are through 116 to 9-point winners over St. Joseph's Milltown Malbay. Good result there for them. Dunloy won by a point in the Antrim Football Championship. I think that was the quarterfinal, so they're into the semi-final there. So big result there. In the Longford semi-final, in the Longford quarterfinals, Clongwish and Rathline are into the semi-finals there. In Leitrim, Mohill and Ballinamore, Sean O'Haslins are through to the knockout rounds. But a bit of a shock, St. Mary's Kiltogger, who lost to Ballinamore 119 to 11 points on Saturday. St. Mary's are actually in a relegation playoff in Leitrim, and they won the Leitrim Championship a few years back. So that would be some fall from grace that they went down to the intermediate grade in Leitrim. That would be really, really big there. Looking at other results, obviously Erogue getting a win in Carlow, as well as Bagnallstown there. Rowan Moore getting a win in Watford. In the Meath Senior LGFA Championship quarterfinals, Centralstown getting a win over Donaghmore Ashbourne. In the Cork Camogie Championship, Erogue maybe causing a shot there, 320 to 318 winners over Corsey Rovers, who have the likes of Saoirse McCarthy and Fiona Keating. So big result there for Erogue in that game. In the Wexford Senior Camogie Championship, Alder at the Balla getting a win, so did Glenbarton. Kilrush got there as well. True Clonlara only won by a point in the Clare Camogie Championship, beating Scariff Oganole 212 to 114. That was a close game there. And in the Down Senior LGFA Championship semi-final, Carrie Duff got to the final after 418 to 17 win over Ross Trevor. So that was Saturday's main headlines.
Absolutely. Well, we got through a hell of a lot there. And as I said, if you missed any results that we have discussed, well, just rewind a little bit in the video. But then on top of that, have a look at the Instagram page. They are all listed. And as we go on, Matthew, that list starts to get a little bit smaller. And then the games become a hell of a lot easier to cover. We are going to move on now. We're just going to run through some of the comments. Peter says here, Turlock O'Brien is the Port Laois manager and Brendan Devaney is the Unions manager. Two big names there. And then two bad results for both of them across the weekend. And then he says Port Laois have Kevin Swain and a few more county lads. They have the history as well, and the big city club. They have had the likes of Colin Parkinson in their team over the last 10 years. Zach Toohey as well came from that club. Lots of Laois county championships, and just wasn't their year, wasn't their day across the weekend. We're going to move on now to Sunday's club championship results. And there is one result, Matthew, that is really, really getting the headlines. Kerry Championship as well is very, very difficult to go back-to-back in. Well, Dr. Crokes have gone back-to-back in the Kerry Senior Football Championship. They beat Nagale 20 points to 112. Very, very impressive performance, and they retained the title.
Yeah, big result for Dr. Crokes there. It's probably an expected result there, but fair play to Nagale. They never give up in this game, despite the fact that Dr. Crokes are really, really on top form in this one. Obviously, big result for Dr. Crokes, who now go into the county championship, wanted to retain that championship there. But regardless, like if East Kerry still win the senior championship, then Dr. Crokes still go into Munster. So I'm guessing they'd be absolutely delighted with the win there. It's a really, really good result from a Dr. Crokes point of view. And Tony Bros and Miall Burns, like they would have been main players again today. So yeah, big result there for Dr. Crokes beating and a Gale team that will be up there in terms of the county championship. There is another championship to go in Kerry. As weird enough as it sounds, there is another championship to go, and the Gale will definitely be up there. They have some excellent players, the likes of Dermot O'Connor, of course, as we discussed on Thursday. So good result there for Dr. Crokes. I think the intermediate championship, that isn't listed there because obviously the post is specifically for senior clubs, but the intermediate final, Gaeltacht beat Fossa in the intermediate final. So Gaeltacht are the intermediate champions in Kerry. Brino Beogley had a brilliant performance in that one. Have to mention the Cork link. Aidan Walsh is midfield for Gaeltacht, despite not speaking a word of Irish, apparently, according to the Clubber interview afterwards. So look, like if he's going to come in and win championships, I don't think Gaeltacht will complain whatsoever. It's a brilliant result for them. And Fossa, is that a failure for them, Séamus? They lost the intermediate final a few years ago to Bildown Castlemaine. They lost at the semi-final stage, I think, to Austin Stacks last year. They lost the final again this year. They are a small club, but they have two of the best set supporters in the country in Paddy and David Clifford. So I'll throw this back to you. Do you think that's a failure, not winning the intermediate championship?
To call it a failure is very harsh. To be honest, I haven't kept up too much with the Kerry Intermediate Championship. I know that Fossa are obviously there and they attract a lot of the attention for the players that they have. But again, you look at the example that we were listing earlier with Patrick Swell and the fact that they have three generational players, three hurlers of the year in their team, yet they can't seem to get a Limerick Championship for love nor money. And you look at Fossa there, yes, while they have the two brothers there who are as good a footballer as I have ever seen, both of them, they are still from a small rural club. And I imagine like it is a small community there in Fossa. So I imagine it would be difficult to produce a squad that is good to get up to that senior championship. And there's no question about it. They were in the junior championship for a reason before the Clifford boys came along and kind of pulled them up, kicking and screaming up into the intermediate championship. But there is no question about it. Smaller clubs will find it difficult to compete when it comes to the full squads and everything like that. And the Clifford brothers really do shine at county level as well because they have the quality around them. So there's no question about it. It will be very, very interesting to see if they can go again and win the intermediate championship next season. But I think Gaeltacht maybe might have had a little bit of more well-rounded team. So I wouldn't brand it a failure. I do think they can come back next season and I do think that they can win it. It's just a question of, again, will Kerry go deep into the championship? Because I think that might have impacted the Cliffords' abilities in this game because they were such a long season. Shane here says, pity for the Cliffords won't be playing in senior in the Kerry Championship. That is another thing. I mean, I would have loved to have seen the Cliffords strut their stuff against, clubs like Dr. Crokes and see how they get on in the senior championship. But no question about it. The intermediate championship retains the X Factor, attraction that it had in this season for one more year at least. We're going to move on then to other games from the Sunday. Starting off looking at the Donegal quarterfinals, the Four Masters beat Glenswilly 215 to 18 points, and Sean McCool's beat Downings 216 to 17 points. You were talking about them potentially having their eye on the title. We haven't talked about the Armagh Championship yet. Of course, there's an ongoing game there. Madden are playing against Armagh Hearts. Probably finished by now. Given you put the post up about an hour ago. But Madden were beating Armagh Harps by 15 points to 1-5.
I have the announcement there that they actually won the game 25 points to 1-8.
Very impressive. Very impressive result there. Galway Senior preliminary quarterfinals, Dunmore McHale's 119, Navanna Litcher-Moore 4-8, St. James's 117, Milltown Malbay 111, Mount Bellew Moyluck 112, Killannon 2-4, so wins there for Mount Bellew, for St. James's and Dunmore McHale's. Now, we were chatting as well about the Connacht Championship. We picked Salthill Knocknacarra as our Connacht champions and then to go deep into the All-Ireland series. If anybody's going to stop them in Galway, what do we think? Who do we think it could be?
I think it has to be Corfin, possibly Moycullen. I think those are the two, to be honest with you. But Bellew Moyluck, it's kind of like they had their chance in the Connacht semi-final a few years ago against Patrick Pearce, obviously the infamous incident, and it's kind of passed them by. They finished third in the Galway group this year, which obviously got them into the preliminary quarterfinals. They got away with it today with a win over Killannon. Copper hits of enough, a 5-point win there, but I don't think they're up to a level of winning the championship. That's just might be an unpopular opinion. I just don't think they're up there as of now. Corfin are they have some good players, obviously, but you have the feeling that the side is aging. I don't know, is Gary Size still playing for them? If he is, what a man. You might call it there. Desi Cadili is a very good player at a club level, and he still probably is strutting his stuff. But I think Salthill Knocknacarra are probably the main favourites for Galway. But if any side was going to push them, I'm going to say Moycullen because they have more youth on their side than Corfin do.
Yeah, no, it's very, very interesting. I think you look at Corfin last season, I mean, Gary Sice was still the man that they were turning to, and that did speak a lot about the fact that they kind of failed, as good as Gary is, that nobody was taking the mantle off him when it comes to that score and responsibility side of things. I think Salthill Knocknacarra, I think their time has come. Moycullen, I think if anybody's going to beat them, I think it will be Moycullen. You're looking at the likes of Sean Kelly that they have there, Paul Kelly, superb players. I think that Moycullen will retain. If it is not, Moycullen side will get the crown back if it is not Salthill Knocknacarra this time. Peter wants us to talk about the Summerhill game. Did we mention Summerhill beating Trim?
That was yesterday,
yeah. Yesterday, Trim managed by Ken Robinson, the former Dubs ladies coach, with Mick Bohan. And then Shane C here says St. Bridget's of Roscommon could also win Connacht. They're a great shout for the Connacht Championship, no question about it. Just look at their run to the final a couple of years ago. But yeah, big win there for Summerhill over Trim, 215 to 11 points, while Screen beat Ballinabrackey by 315 to 120. So a win by the minimum there in the Meath Football Championship. But looking at the rest of Sunday's results, before we wrap up the show, Matthew, we are just about to hit an hour. Is there any other results that you would like to highlight from Sunday's games?
Yeah, so in the Derry Championship, obviously Lavey got over Kilray 120 to 5 points. I don't know, was this a bit of a Mick take, Séamus? But a lot of people were saying Kilray on the TikTok comments in terms of All-Irelands. Well, they lost by 18 points in the preliminary quarterfinal in Derry. So I'll just leave the sentence there. Ballagher had a good win over Dungiven as well, 118 to 17 points. In the Tyrone Championship, Oma got into the quarterfinals, so did Eden Dark. Carrickmore and Dunamore got into the quarterfinals there. Eden Dark got a good win over Drumore, actually, 219 to 216. Looking back at it, was a stupid prediction, saying that Eden Dark would win the Tyrone Championship, but they have the likes of Niall Morgan, they've Con Kilpatrick, they've Darren McCurry. It was all about knitting it together. And they beat a good Drumore side by 3 points tonight. So could they be up there in terms of the Tyrone Championship? Remains to be seen, but they seem like a good crop of players, but can they deliver? Excuse me, on the pitch there. In the Wexford Senior Hurley Championship preliminary quarterfinals, Ford St. Aidan's got through after beating Shelbaliers by a point. So Shelbaliers are out the championship. That's a big story there. Naivana in the Wexford Senior Hurley Championship preliminary quarterfinals, they scored 6 goals and 17 points, and they beat Rapparee Starlights by that scoreline to 114. So they have to be up there in terms of favourites for the Wexford Championship. You might think there. You mentioned the Meath Senior Football Championship quarterfinals there. Dundalk got over the line today. That was a game live in TG Carroll. They beat Wolftones 114 to 111. And Ratoath got over the line after extra time, beating Dunamore Ashbourne as well. On the Cork Premier Senior Football Championship, you might have seen Castlehaven got beaten today by Newcestown. They're West Cork rivals, 12 points to 10. I did watch this game earlier, and I will say Newcestown deserved it. Absolutely superb performance from them. 5 points from David Buckley, who will be one of the main players on the Cork team, hopefully next season, if he gets integrated into the Cork team. 5 points from Newcestown also came from Ty Toomey, a guy, he scored 5 points per play, but he's 40 years of age, Séamus. If you want to talk about old fellas still doing it for the clubs, a guy playing for 60-odd minutes and scoring 5 points per play, in tough conditions, weather-wise as well. Really, really good performance. He got the club man of the match as well, deservedly so. So a big result for Castlehaven there. The other results there, Mallow beating Valley Rovers 220 to 115, and Clonakilty beating Carbery Rangers 117 to 6 points, which means Valley Rovers and Carbery Rangers will be in the relegation playoff in Cork. Other results there, Ballincollig beat Douglas 110 to 11 points, so Ballincollig are in the quarterfinals. Nemo Rangers smashed St. Michael's 418 to 14 points. A lot of people saying I'm delusional for picking them to win Munster. They won't even win Cork. Well, they've just smashed St. Michael's to smithereens today. So look, they have some good players. I'm still backing Nemo to win the championship. I don't care what anybody thinks. St. Finbarrs beat Carrigaline 223 to 10 points. A good result for them. But now the quarterfinal, Séamus, it's very interesting. St. Finbarrs and Castlehaven will meet each other in the quarterfinal because of Newcestown beating Castlehaven today. So, and the winners of that game will face Duhallow or Ballincollig in the semi-finals, and Nemo or the other side of the draw, they'll face the winners of Carrigaline and Newcestown in the semi-final. So you'd imagine, yes, Newcestown, brilliant result today, but you'd imagine Nemo will make it in the final, and who knows, from there they could go on and win the Cork Championship. Actually, a big result in the Monaghan Championship. Scottstown got beaten today by Carduff, 117 to 18 points. Bit of a shock there. According to the Monaghan Twitter page, Scottstown are still in the preliminary quarterfinals in Monaghan, so maybe the result wasn't too damaging in a way, but they still have to navigate through the quarterfinals there. Clontibber got a win, Marrocloon and Latin O'Reilly's got wins in Monaghan as well. Johnstown Bridge are in the quarterfinals of the Kildare Football Championship after beating Eadstown today. Glen in the Down Senior Football Championship beat Castlewellan. In the Louth Senior Football Championship, Newtown Blues and St. Mocta's both got wins there. The other Wicklow finalists, Tinahely, who won the Wicklow Championship last year, are out of the championship. They lost in the semi-final today after extra time to Boughton last 216 to 13 points. So an impressive display there in extra time for Boughton last. So Boughton last and Carnew Emmets are in the Wicklow Senior Football Championship final, so well, best of luck to both sides there. In the Laois Senior Football Championship quarterfinals, Grey Cullen and St. Joseph's join Courtwood and Port Arlington into the semi-finals. St. Joseph's won the Laois Championship a few seasons back and one of the most shocked teams in Gaelic games over the last 2 seasons, so they'll fancy their chances now. The Port Laois are out of the championship. In the Longford Football Championship quarterfinals, Kilo Young Emmett beat Mullinockta. Mullinockta are out of the Longford Championship. Maybe not a shock considering Mullinockta, since their days of shocking the Leinster Championship, they haven't really done anything in the Longford Championship.
Yeah, well, I mean, that team that they had, they were all 31, 32, 33. So, I mean, in 5 years, that time they beat Kilmacud Crokes was 7 years ago. So the majority of them lads are gone now. It's a completely new team. But, yeah, it's still sad to see the era come to an end.
It is definitely. And Cullenkill got over the line against Applelar as well, 210 to 13 points. St. Joseph's Dura Bearfield and Cratloe got over the line in the Clare Football Championship quarterfinals. Kickham's Cregan and Roger Casement's Port Glenone are in the Antrim Senior Football Championship semi-finals. In Tipperary, Clonmel Commercial's got a win over Grange Muckler Ballynail, 113 to 6 points. Big result there for Clonmel. Could they stop Lockmore Castleiney this year? It remains to be seen. Big result in the Carlow Football Championship. Palatine beat Tinryland 118 to 1-5. It's a bit of a shock there. Palatine are a good side, but Tinryland would have been thereabouts in the Carlow Championship, so that's a big result there. Exactly, yeah. St. Pat's Portaferry beat Ballycran in the Down Senior Hurling Championship 518 to 112. St. Pat's obviously got close to Slotneil in the Ulster Championship last season, so they seem to be going still pretty well in that. Other results as well in the Waterford Senior Football Championship. Denier actually lost to Abbeyside Ballinaccorty in the first round, 1-8 to 9 points. So Denier, They might be falling and slipping a bit there. Rathcormac got a win over Galway here, 110 to 10 points. North London Shamrocks won in the London Senior Football Championship. They beat a cool name here, Dulwich Harps. 21 points to 2-7. It sounds like a Harry Potter kind of location. Full of Irish got a win over Ron Towers as well, 115 to 112, a big result for there. Another kind of Harry Potter reference, Wandsworth Gales. What a name for a
That's a Harry Potter name.
Yeah,
that is.
Unfortunately for the Harry Potter names there, they both lost. Wandsworth also lost 111 to 10 points. So sorry to the Wizards there. I know it's a relegation playoff, but in the Sligo Senior Football Championship, Turlestrand won today in the relegation playoff 216 to 12 points over Curry. So Curry are relegated, but Turlestrand in the relegation playoff in Sligo, Séamus. What happened there? Seriously.
Only a few years ago, they were dominating the Sligo Championship. Yeah. So it's been... I mean, we see that happen in the club championship. We've seen it happen with St. Vincent's in the Dublin Championship. They went from dominating in the 2010s to being relegated in 2021. So it can happen very fast once a golden crop leaves. I imagine the years of Adrian Marin leading from the front, I imagine they aren't happening anymore for Turlestrand. But still, very, very surprised to see them in the position that they're in. Wouldn't have seen that coming.
Yeah, and other results as well. The Mayo Senior Hurley Championship, Ballyhonus and Tureen are into the final. Tureen have dominated the Mayo Championship over the last few years, so it's no shock there. In the Roscommon Hurling Championship, Oran and Four Roads are into the final there, so congratulations to both sides. Moving on to Camogie, in the Galway Senior Camogie Championship, Sarsfield won today, who were our picks or one of our picks for the All-Ireland to win it in the end, but they beat Athenry 14 points to 11, so not really convincing. Would that be a concern? I'm not sure. Maybe it's just about getting the results, getting the job done. David's got a win as well, so did Omar Mari and Mulla. In the Kerry Senior LGFA quarterfinals, Finoog St. Senans beat Dr. Crokes 210 to 11 points, so good result for them there. And Southern Gales beat Scarta Glen 712 to 17. Southern Gales have the likes of Sheriff Roche, so that is a big result for them. But to score 7 goals is a magnificent result there. In the Cork Senior Camogie preliminary quarterfinal, Blackrock did beat Carbery in the end 14 points to 9. So we discussed the Carbery story during the week about players playing on the same day, which is a bit of a disgrace, but Blackrock are into the quarterfinals there. In the Waterford Senior Camogie quarterfinals, De La Salle beat Brookie Rangers 5-12 to 5 points. So they'll be definitely up there in terms of contending. And De La Salle have Beck Carton at their team. God here got a win over Butlerstown. Listen to this result. I know Aaron predicted them to win Munster. And he's right to 5.25 to a goal. That's a brilliant, brilliant result.
One of those where you're like, you're on the pitch for them days. And you're like, why the fuck do I even play?
Tremor got a win as well, and so did St. Anne. So they're at the semi-finals. In the Tip Senior Camogie Championship, Anacarty got a win over Cashel. In the Cork Senior LGFA Championship, I picked Ahada to win the Munster LGFA Championship. They beat Castlehaven today 3-12 to 3 points. So Ada are definitely one of the teams to watch there. Kinsale beat Bright Rovers 213 to 10 points. Aero got a win over Mourne Abbey 2-7 to 19. That's a bit of a shit, considering Mourne Abbey were contending for All-Ireland with Kincur and Clonberne over the last few seasons. They've fallen quite a bit in Cork. And the loss to Aero today, that's another bad loss for them. St. Val's got a win over Clonakilty as well, 13 points to 5. Castlebar Mitchells, Knockmore, Burrs Hole, and Westport got wins in the Mayo Senior LGFA Championship. In the Monaghan Senior LGFA semi-finals, Donaghmoyne and Emmett Oak are into the final. Remember Donaghmoyne, they were in the final against Kilcurran and Clonberne a few seasons back, so they'll be desperate to win the Monaghan Championship this season. In the Cavan Senior LGFA semi-final, Crossalock got a win over Mullahoran on 210 to 7 points, so comprehensive win there. And finally, in the Leitrim Senior LGFA Championship, St. Francis, St. Joseph's and Glencar Manor all got wins in that championship. So that brings an end to all the games this weekend, unless there's games tomorrow. There is actually some games on Monday and Tuesday, but you know what? The weekend ends on Sunday.
Yeah, we'll be doing an episode on Thursday, so if there's any massive results, we will cover them in that show. Peter here says, great for review and round up, lads. Top class as always. Thanks a mil. See you Thursday. Thank you, Peter, for joining us on another episode. Thank you as well to Shane C975, NIRB, and of course, am I missing anybody else? Smart Parents 812. Floods of comments in from you guys. Really, really helped to make the episode another great one. We'll be back, as I mentioned, next Thursday at 8 p.m. for a weekend preview and to discuss some of the results from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday's games, and then to talk about the GA news as well. But until then, have a nice weekend. Enjoy the Traders at 9:30. I'll be watching. And until then, take care.
Follow your instinct, baby. Follow your instinct.